guys, welcome back to another Colorful Keto with Dory. And we're on our journey to find our new you. And I am super, super excited. We get to meet an amazing, amazing lady today. We are going to do a Q&A with Ask Nurse Cindy, and there she is. I'm so excited. So I haven't really met her either, other than the brief call that we had this afternoon that was an accidental call. So I'm so excited for you guys to meet this absolutely amazing lady. If you have not found her on YouTube yet, Facebook, Instagram, we're going to find out where we do that.
I dropped the phone.
Oh, I can hear you. I love it. We're super smooth today. We're connecting, so we might have to try it one more time. But we know how we do, guys. Here, it's never all that smooth, but it's always a really lot of fun. So you know, we get all the bumps and all the bruises here. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull Nurse Cindy out, and then we're gonna re-add her again, because that did not work with the dropping of the phone. Okay, so we might need to give her a moment just to pop back into the live, because it's not showing me that I can add her yet. So we're just going to give her a second. And guess what? This is like her first time doing it. So you guys need to kisses, hearts, because we're totally going to figure it out. We're totally going to figure it out. Okay, she's not in here quite yet. So we're going to give her a second. Miss Jessica, darling, it's so nice to see you all. And I do have to tell you, it was Jessica who messaged me and said, oh my God, Dory, you have got to chat with Ask Nurse Cindy. If you haven't seen her yet, you're crazy. And she was not wrong. So I love you, and I owe you, Jessica, for telling me to look up Ask Nurse Cindy, because when I watched her videos, I was absolutely blown away by how she takes the science that I don't understand and breaks it down into, you know, Dory size pieces that I completely understand. So let's see if she's back in yet. And if she's not, oh, yep, she is. Yay! Let's add. I'm so excited. And she was super nervous that it wasn't going to work. So we have to like... Yay! Look at that, I'm too tall.
I have no videos of you, none of this. This is all free to me. Hi, Dory.
Oh, hello, Cindy.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I'm having the best Monday. How was your Monday so far?
Awesome. I'm spending time with you, so life is good.
I am so excited. So first of all, tell us who you are and what you do, because some of my people, I know it sounds crazy, but some of them might not know who you are.
Oh, contraire, how could that happen? I'm trying to get it so I can get my coffee stick, but I think I have to do it. I have to do it this way.
Yeah.
I'll just flip. So, hi everybody, my name is Cindy. I've been a registered nurse for 40 years now, and I've been following the ketogenic lifestyle, or low fat.
Low fat.
High fat. For 2 years now. As of is today the 30th or the 31st? What day is today?
The 30th.
Yeah. So I will. Yeah, it's 2 years now.
Happy Ketoversary.
5 pounds. Yeah. It's been great. I love I'm so fascinated by your picture, your lights in the background. I'm mesmerized.
They're so fun. I love them. I won't lie. It was supposed to be a one-time deal. I did them one time for it was Thursday night karaoke recipe. And then everybody was like, oh, Dory, we need the lights. Like, the lights say Dory.
I think it's awesome. It's awesome. So I'm honored to be here with you. What can I share with your folks?
Well, let's first talk about your 2-year Ketoversary. So okay. I want to start at the beginning. How did you find keto? Like, did you stumble across it? Did somebody change your life? What happened, Cindy?
So my sister Debbie Stokes, who is a little bit over a year older than I am, called me one day. Well, she'd been calling me. We're close, and she had been telling me she was doing this low carb thing, and I was a carbaholic, and I really really, really did not want to hear it. I didn't want to. I knew what was coming. Cindy, don't you think you want to do this with me?
I want to try.
Team. And I'm like, and then she sent me a video by Dr. Sarah Hallberg. It's a TED Talk.
Ooh,
I don't know
okay.
if you've seen it. She's in the blue pants during this TED Talk, and it was before she was involved with Virta. And she, as a physician, did a TED Talk saying, what if we have been treating type 2 diabetes wrong this whole time? And she said, Cindy, would you just watch this video? And being a good sister, it was a 20-minute talk, and I put it on, and I was sort of multitasking because I didn't want to watch it, and it revolutionized everything she was saying. Just clinically clicked into place.
Yeah.
And I was amazed and ticked off because now I knew that clinically I had to make this change. And so I called my sister back. I said, I am so mad at you. So that's how it started. And so Debbie and I started, and she was a couple weeks ahead of me. And unbeknownst to us, my brother Steve Davis, who lives down in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, is also a registered nurse.
Yeah.
He had started about the same time. And I was down there for my job, and I said to Steve, he said, hey, do you want to get together? We'll do dinner. I'm like, fantastic, but I need to go somewhere where I can get some meat because I'm doing keto. I'm doing low carb. He goes, me too. So to make a very long story short, 2 years later, all 4 of us siblings are doing low carb. The spouses are all doing low carb.
Oh.
My mom and dad, who are in their mid-80s, are doing low carb. And total, we've lost 902 pounds.
What?
As a family, we have lost 902 pounds. And I can tell you, the community part of that, whether it's family or close friends or what we're doing now, building online communities, I think are vital for success for when you're having tough times, that you can be transparent and say, man, I am really struggling with this, or you can share your success. And that's part of why I started asking her, Cindy, is it transformed me, Dory? I went from being a carbaholic, and you and I talked a little bit earlier when you were trying to give me a tutorial how to do Instagram Live, my first ever Instagram Live.
I love it.
And I was like, I have to share this with people.
Yes.
I had been in bondage to food for so long.
Oh, yes.
Yes. I felt hopeless. I felt helpless. I felt judged because obesity is the one addiction that's quickly and obviously apparent to any bystander.
Yes.
Yeah. You have a problem with food in whatever way, shape, or form can be seen from the outside. You can have a drinking problem, a drug problem, gambling, shopping, and hide it for a long time, if not forever. But a food problem, a carbaholic, you are on display, and it's one of the last remaining things that's socially acceptable to joke about. So to be set free, I wanted others to feel the same way and to experience that. So that's why I did it.
And I love it, because you know what? It is socially acceptable to walk up to somebody and say horrible things about their weight, to comment about their food choices, to, look at them in public like, does she know she's fat? Like, she shouldn't really be eating anything. So yeah, freedom from that, hallelujah, because I yo-yo dieted every kind.
And one of my I get so internally just livid when someone says, why don't they care? They just don't care. If they just cared, they would take better care of themselves. And I'm like, you don't say that about me, because I cared every moment of every day. I knew it. I knew how I looked. I knew how I was judged. I knew how difficult it was to find clothes that fit, much less were attractive. And I travel for a living, and I lecture on wound care. And so to be up talking about taking care of wounds, yet be obviously not at a peak health myself, was very demoralizing. It was a difficult job. I love my job, but it was difficult personally.
Well, because you're in the healthcare industry, so you feel like people are looking at you and saying, but you're not healthy, Cindy. How can you, tell me how?
Right.
Yeah,
and nurses overall, especially if you work night shift like I did for 6 years in ICU, the circadian rhythm gets messed up. You keep yourself awake by eating and drinking, and drinking coffee, not drinking.
Yes.
But it just tends to really self-perpetuate. So that's sort of the brief synopsis of my story.
Nice. So we had a question if you could give some keto tips for type 2 diabetics. So I don't really know kind of where she's going with that.
Thing and take my phone to my. Hold on, I'm still with you.
Oh yeah, I'm just scrolling while you're doing that to see if I missed any other questions.
Oh, that's not going to work. Okay, so let me just talk about tips for type 2.
Yes.
Let's talk about what type 2 is. And I've got a couple of videos on type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
I'm trying to get my my little thing. So type 2 diabetes is a disease where over time, because as human beings, we were never created, our biology cannot easily handle an excessive amount of carbohydrates. We were made to be more hunter-gatherers. The hunting part where you eat the meat and the fat was highly prized. Carbohydrates only came to us seasonally. Berries, if we were lucky, some tubers. But now with all the processed things and all how they process, so even if it tells you it has fiber, it's so broken down the body assimilates it. But anyway, make long story short, type 2 diabetes is where we have made our pancreas secrete insulin so much, so often, so frequently, in such large amounts that it basically, it's like turning up the volume on your radio. You can't turn it up anymore, and the pancreas cannot produce more insulin. We keep taking in the glucose, so our blood sugars now go over that tipping point. They start elevating.
Okay.
So the best way to, if you're a type 2 diabetic, if you're not on medications, start lowering your carbohydrates, and you can be pretty aggressive with that.
Okay.
If you are on, because your blood sugars will drop. The example that I use is that if you had a peanut allergy, think of glucose to you as a diabetic, a type 2 diabetic, is something that you can't handle anymore. Your metabolism really doesn't do well with it. So let's relay that to someone that has a peanut allergy. I would never, and they have to carry an EpiPen around with them, and if they are exposed to peanuts, even sometimes just the powder in the air, they have a severe, and they have to have an EpiPen. They have to take epinephrine and jam it into their thigh so they don't die.
Yeah.
We would never say to a type 2 diabetic, we'd never say to a peanut allergy person, hey, have this PBJ, I made it just for you. It's a special time of year. I always make my PBJs for you. Just take that EpiPen. We would never be cavalier about a severe allergy, yet we say to diabetics, oh, you can have that donut, just your medication will help, or take that insulin. So if you are on insulin, that's forcing your body to either produce more insulin or you're giving yourself insulin, what Dr. Eric Westman from Duke University, first off, I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to diagnose, treat, or cure. So if you want to find someone like Dr. Sarah Hallberg, Dr. Jeffrey Gerber, Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Westman from Duke, and you want to look at how they treat their patients. And what they say is that if you are on medication for that first, try to work with your physician. Say, I want to drop my processed carbohydrates. I want to try to minimize the amount of medications I'm on. What Dr. Westman does is he takes people off all their orals right away, I believe, all the pills. Yeah. And then he drops their insulin by about 50% the very first day. Yes. And usually about 95% of his people, he can have them off within 3 months of all medications for their diabetes. So you basically put it into remission. What you don't want to do as a type 2 diabetic is you don't want to continue to take your medication and drop your carbs, because you'll bottom yourself out. You'll get very low blood sugars, and that can be a medical emergency. So take it slow, take it steady. If it takes you 2, 3, 4 months to work your way down. My daughter Rachel D, who's you'll see her on my posts, she's a type 1 diabetic. Now that's a different situation where you totally stop producing insulin. Typically as a young child, she was 37 months old, as a result of an autoimmune response to an infection. She had chickenpox. So with her, her body doesn't produce any insulin whatsoever, yet we have her on low carb. And the way we were able to do that was to very slowly, first, how many carbs was she eating in a day? 300-400. Drop that down by 100. See, drop her insulin down. So it's just a matter of titrating down your medications while you're titrating down your carbohydrates. Because if you lower your carbohydrate intake, you do not need those medications at the level that you're taking them. So it's probably too long of an answer, but...
Oh, it's a great one, because you know what? I won't lie. I have seen this multiple times where people started a ketogenic diet without their doctor's consent or approval or watching over them. because either, they don't want to go to the doctor or their doctor wasn't on board and they just started doing, and then they ended up in the hospital because they were taking all of these medications that they didn't need anymore. So it's super, super, super important to have your doctor monitor you for meds.
I'm sorry about the light going on and off. I'm trying to get it. I have my selfie stick and I'm trying to get it turned so I can hold it. So bear with me while you see my... So the pancreas is really important that we understand that if it's not working well, but we're on medication, we have to be able to make them work together. And there's lots of great educational videos out there that you can watch that'll help you with that. But we want you to do it safely and do it slowly.
Yes. And you know what? You don't have to say, okay, tomorrow is the day I have no sugar or no carbs. I didn't do it that way. I slowly eased those things out of my diet so that it wasn't abrupt. I didn't get sick. I didn't get a keto flu. And for me, it was the key, because this time it wasn't a diet. This time I was making a healthy choice, and I decided if I made one healthy choice a day, I was a rock star. The first time I put 5 sugars in my coffee instead of 6, I danced around my kitchen and I made my fiance congratulate me. And I was like, look at me, I'm being healthy. Because celebrate it.
Well, one of the things we talk about is progress over perfection.
Yes.
Movement in the right direction. I was talking to a friend this morning, and they were concerned about, they're getting ready to go 2 weeks vacation in Italy. I said, do the best you can. If you're going to have some of the desserts, and he just started on Friday, I said, do what the French ladies do. They say hello and goodbye. One bite says hello, you relish it, you savor it. The next bite is goodbye, and you put it down. So do what you can. Once you're in ketosis, try to stay there, because it is so much easier. Your cravings are pretty much gone. You're not hungry. But any progress is better than nothing. So if you can go from, I added mine up, I was about 500 carbs a day. And for me to go to 20,
that's
I
huge.
To just nuke everybody the first 4 or 5 days. I just wanted to basically, my husband would walk in the room and I'd give him the look, the hangry look, and he'd go, okay, gotta go.
Bye-bye then.
Bye-bye, see you later, good to talk to you.
Bye-bye. I did the same when I cut out dairy for a month. Now, I thought it might be responsible for the issues that were going on in my throat. It's not, so I brought it back, because why suffer? But by I think it was day 5, I went through what I could only describe as dairy withdrawal psychotic. Like, he was like, wow, dude, I'm gonna go somewhere for a while. And I was like, you better do that, because I don't like you right now.
No, I didn't like anyone. He was so happy when I've been in ketosis. I came out one morning, I was like, hi, honey. He's like, hi. So people say, Cindy, do you ever do a cheat day? So personally, for me, no. I had a couple of handfuls of popcorn the other day at Aquatica SeaWorld with my granddaughter feeding me. Probably a couple of adult handfuls. I didn't feel good at all. I was still in ketosis. I went home. I've got that keto mojo, and I checked my ketones because I'm so fat adapted. I'm so keto adapted. It didn't kick me out, but I didn't feel good physically. But I have not had one time where I've had anything with sugar in it, because I'm so worried as a carbaholic. It would be like, even at holidays, and because my family's all in it together, we're supportive of each other, but would never say to someone with peanut allergy or a recovering alcoholic,
just have one.
This eggnog is my special spiked Christmas eggnog, and I'm going to be hurt if you don't drink it. We would never do that. Or a normal person would never do that.
No, and you know what? You mentioned Dr. Ken Berry, and I'll tell you a secret he gave me, I don't know, a couple months ago. He said, just do this. Just tell people, I've been to my doctor, and it turns out I have a wheat allergy. I have an aversion to grains. I have an aversion to rice. I can't eat those things. He's like, just tell them you're allergic, because then they're not going to say, oh, well, what, you really want to hurt my feelings like that? What, you won't eat the special cookies I made for Christmas? That's rude. Yeah, that's rude, Cindy. I made that for you.
If we can put, I told you I'm not good with this technology. If we can put it in the context of an allergy, and it really is in many ways, because when we eat sugars, if you've ever listened to Dr. Robert Lustig out of the University of California, San Francisco, he's a pediatric endocrinologist, and he likened sugar to an addictive substance, because addictive substances, number one, can be taken into the body but are not necessary for survival. So alcohol is a liquid, but I don't need to drink that particular liquid to stay alive.
Yes.
Tobacco, cocaine, you name it. There's substances that we can ingest, but it doesn't mean that we need them. Yet, if they're the type of substance that elicit this dopamine response from our brain, meaning that pleasure center of your brain goes, that's why they call it comfort food. You eat it and you get that sugar rush, and then the dopamine releases from your brain. You're like, oh, I feel euphoric for about 30 minutes. And then you start to have the blood sugar, maybe an hour, then the blood sugar starts to come back down and you feel like crap.
Worse. So
what happens is time you need a second donut to get the same hit, or a third donut, or you need to be eating all the time.
Yes.
So sugar is just highly addictive. It really lights up the same pleasure part of your brain that cocaine or alcohol do. And so what he talks about is it's not necessary for life, and you become tolerant to the previous dose, so you need to increase your dose to get the same response. So it's really interesting. And so I don't mess with sugar. I don't mess with it.
So here's my question for you, because you started and you never went back. So I know that people are really curious. Have you lost weight, Nurse Cindy, or were you always just really thin? Because you're quite fit, lady.
Yeah, so I'll stand up and show you. So I don't know if you can see, my arms aren't long enough. So I'm wearing a size 8'10". The girls look bigger than they actually are. Guys just turn away. But I used to wear, my highest weight was 305 pounds. So yeah, I've actually always been overweight. This is my lowest adult weight. I weighed more than this in junior high. I was 98 pounds in the first grade. So I've lost 75 pounds. Let me show you one of my, I have a couple of my before pictures. This was me. Whoops. I was probably about 250, 260 here. So I wasn't at my highest weight. But I want you to look at what's in my hand.
The chocolate bar.
I couldn't even put the chocolate bar down for the photo. Oh my God. So that was me. I bought my very first size 6 suit jacket the other day. I was quite impressed. So that was me just about 3 or 4 years ago. You can see my husband's hand on my hip. I was in 18 women back then.
Wow.
So being an 8'10", to be able to even have the courage to take a size 6 suit jacket off of the rack.
Right.
And say to myself the whole time, it won't fit, and it just slid right on. I was like, I can't believe it. I just told my sister, I got out my glasses to read the label. I looked at the hanging tag. Yeah, no, I've always been heavy. This is the very first time in my life that I feel that I've still got another 20 pounds to go. So my BMI, I'm finally down into just overweight. I was morbidly obese when I started, went down to obese, and now I'm in the overweight category. So I'd like to get down into normal weight BMI, but we'll see if that happens. I'm in no rush because I'm just enjoying the journey.
Well, and that's
what I tell people. If you're impatient and if you let the scales rule you, you will get depressed and you give up, because it's not a ski slope of weight loss. It's plateaus. You plateau, you drop a little. You plateau, you go back up a little bit. You go down a little bit. We have to be patient with the process.
Now, let's talk about that, because I saw a video that you talked about how fat cells store water and whoosh, and I kind of want to go there, because I want to say, for me, it's been a year and a half, and I only had 20 pounds to lose when I started, and I've lost 35. But I will honestly say my weight has only shifted 4 times in a year and a half. So it's like 6 months of nothing and then a whoosh. And then 3 months of nothing and then a whoosh. And people ask me all the time, Dory, how does that not frustrate you? And the answer is my body's shifting, so I don't really care what the scale says. I look all kinds of thinner.
Right. That's why it's so important to understand the process, that it is a process, that your body has a desire to stay the same. It has the desire wherever it's at to just stay put. And so we have to understand that when we force it to change, it's going to have points of resistance. So there's this thing called the whoosh effect, and our fat cells can get quite large. When we, quote, lose weight or lose fat, we're not actually losing the fat cells, they're just getting smaller. So unless you go and you have things surgically removed via liposuction or a scalpel, you're always going to have the same number of fat cells. They just
Okay.
get small. So if you think about that fat cell being a balloon and it's filled with fat, as the fat starts to be released from that little fat cell to be used by the body as energy, because it needs to make ketones, because you kept your insulin low by keeping your carbs low, your fat cell is like, dang, she's done this before, because I've yo-yo dieted my entire life, Dory. And
Me
so
too.
the body will say, she's just kidding. I'm going to put some water in here so I don't have to get smaller, because I like this size that I am right now.
Right.
And so it will pull water into the fat cells. Now there's tens of millions of fat cells throughout your body, and they're all going to be at different phases of doing this or not doing this. I started losing weight in my face first, and it's working its way down. We're finally down to the trunk. There's less junk in my trunk. But it's really funny how the body chooses where to take the fat.
Yes.
So what happens is it'll pull water in that area. And so the weight won't change on the scales, but you're smaller. You're
Yes.
And that's why you need to have clothes that you have in the closet that you try on every Saturday, a shirt that buttons up, that's not stretchy, that buttons up, a belt, zip up pants, or something. And measuring tape, and measure your neck, the top of your chest, at your nipple line, right below your breast, at your waist, etc. Because your shape will change. Well, then what will happen is over time, as you're consistent, as your insulin levels are low because your glucose intake is low, I basically say the fat cells realize you're not kidding. And they're like, oh my God.
Oh my gosh, she actually means it.
A number of them throughout your body will decide to collapse down on themselves. They sort of just like release all that water. So you might be 80% fat, 20% water, 60% water, 40% fat, and finally they just say, well, shoot, I've got to. And so you'll find you go to the bathroom a lot. I'm sorry that my light is bad. I don't know what's going on.
That's okay.
I just do. Oh well. Anyway, so I'm horrible at this stuff, but I got a good heart.
We don't even mind. That's why we love you. You know that, right?
Oh, you're so sweet. But anyway, so they'll sort of release stuff. You'll find yourself going to the bathroom more often, and the next day you'll be down a pound or two, or sometimes even 3. So that's my most popular video I did. I did it.
Oh, I love it.
2 years, or is it 2 years ago tomorrow? Tomorrow's the 31st. 2 years ago tomorrow, and it has 1.4 million views.
Oh wow!
Because
I know why.
It resonates with people. And it's fun to look at myself back then, and I'd already lost, I'd have to listen to the video, 18 pounds or 20 pounds.
Yeah.
And then to see how excited I was then, and to know that I've been able to sustain it. I had a family member, a little more distant. He's not doing keto, and when I told him I was doing this, having known me for all these years and knowing it was start and stop, I'll do this one, I'll do that one, he goes, oh, okay, we'll see how long this one lasts.
Oh.
And
Okay.
it's true. I mean, he did not say anything that wasn't. He said it in that sort of joking manner.
Yes.
And it really cut me to the heart, because I thought, wow, is that how people see me? And then surely it was. But to be able to sustain it for 2 years, and to be more excited now about the changes I'm seeing in my body, while the scales are stupid slow right now. My inflammation's down. I'm sleeping better. I feel younger. I feel more energetic. Life is good.
Well, and you know what? I say this, 40 is the new 20, because I am healthier in my 40s than I was in my 20s. When I was, right now, I just turned 43 last weekend. But at 23, I was 290 pounds. I was sick all of the time. I was depressed. I had irritable bowel syndrome. At that point, I was concerned that I wouldn't live to see my son grow, let alone have grandchildren. So I lived the majority of my life morbidly obese for most of my life.
Yeah, and I'm 61, so it's amazing to feel that you've been given. I'm so happy for anyone that's younger than I that finds this answer at an earlier age, because my nephew was one of the holdouts for a while. He and his wife Kelly, Michael Jr., he and his wife Kelly started. They were both morbidly obese. He's down 110, and I think she's down 67 or 68. And they're in their maybe late 20s or early 30s. And I said, you guys,
you got it made.
Totally changed the trajectory of your life. All of us have. But they have more years to benefit. They're going to have fewer inflammatory diseases. They're going to have a lower chance of Alzheimer's or other neurodegenerative diseases. And my parents that are in their mid-80s who are keto, my mom is type 2 diabetic. She's down 55 pounds at 84. And they say they feel like they're in their 60s again. And I'm like, well, dang, then I must feel like I'm in my 40s. So I think it gives you about a 20-year, so good.
I agree. Like, honestly, I have more energy than people in their 20s. I do. Like, all day long, people say to me, oh God, Dory, where do you get all your energy? It is keto. It is keto all day long, because I described myself as Eeyore before, because that was very me. I was very sad, very woe is me. Oh, there goes my tail again. Life was never good. I was never happy. And now with keto, I'm unikitty. Like, girl, I got energy off the charts. As soon as my eyes pop open in the morning, I'm like, oh, keto time.
Yeah.
Keto.
Well, because if you listen to some of the researchers and talk about how our brain, it thrives on glucose, but it actually will prefer the ketones. And we've done so much damage to our brains with all the carbs for the years that so many, if you listen to Carrie Brown, if you listen to some of the other folks talk about it, when you give yourself ketones, if you have anxiety, depression, bipolar, any of these things, you should give this a try, because when your body functions on ketones, it's like taking a detour around the broken parts if it's a glucose-related metabolism issue, because we say that depression's a chemical imbalance. Well, let's give it a different chemical. Let's give it ketones, and let's see how it does. And mood improvement is dramatic on most people that go keto.
Well, and I never expected that. To be honest with you, I found keto by accident, kind of like you did. A girlfriend of mine said, hey, Dory, watch this video. And it wasn't a great video, but it was enough to pique my interest. So I knew nothing about keto. I had no idea that depression was going to be improved by this. I'm going to say about 3 weeks, I just thought to myself, when was the last day I was too miserable to get out of bed? When was the last day I had a migraine? When was the last day when I just thought, you know what, I don't even want it today? And I realized it had been weeks. Like, I couldn't remember the last time I was miserable, and it just happened like that, and I never thought it would.
I used to wake up, isn't it amazing? Isn't it just, I wish I was there and I'd give you a great big old hug, because we hear that message consistently. All the folks that follow me on Ask Nurse Cindy, and I'll say, who's got, heck with the scales, sling the scales out the back, put it in time now, lock it away, put it in your girlfriend's trunk of her car, so that we can't live, if we live by the scales, we'll die by the scales.
Oh, you will.
Many of us have, if we take a moment and think through, what doesn't hurt that used to hurt? I used to wake up with headaches so severe, my head would be drawn all the way back, almost touching the back of my, of my scapula, and my head would just be pounding probably 5 days a week. And when I dropped the gluten and the carbs and I went into ketosis, I wouldn't say they went away overnight, but they went away pretty dramatically, to the point that I don't know what I did, but I must have gotten glutened or something somehow. But I woke up one morning about a month into keto, and I was at home, and I woke up with this headache. And we had this routine when I would wake up with these. He'd get up, he'd get me to Excedrin, he'd get me the ice bag. I'd lay back, take the Excedrin, lay back on the ice bag on the back of my neck. And I woke up, and he said I was smiling, and I was saying, oh my God, I have a bad headache. And he's like, all right, weirdo, why are you smiling? Because you have a headache. And I'm like, sweetheart, when is the last time I woke you up
with a headache?
And it's so freeing to not have the aches and the pains, to have the energy, to have more mental clarity. It's I don't know, the travel that I do now for my job, because I'm gone more than I'm home. I don't know how I would do it as a 61-year-old woman in the hours I work if it wasn't for keto. Because I was 2 years ago, before I started, thinking I can't do this much longer. The wear and tear on your body is pretty intense. So.
Yes. Now, Jessica said that her degenerative disc disease has been very well managed, and she rarely feels pain with it anymore. And I would say that even Dr. Ken has said that he's had patients not need their back surgery, because they've come to him and said, well, it doesn't hurt so bad anymore, Dr. Barry. Should I still have the surgery? And he's like, duh, no. No.
Yeah,
If you're not in pain, why are you fixing it?
And one thing I will encourage people to know is that it isn't magic. You have to be diligent. You have to be consistent. If you tap dance and you give yourself a cheat meal a day, you're not going to get that inflammation under control because sugar is sticky. One of the things I like to explain to people is that no matter what carbohydrate I eat, it's going to break down into one or two types of sugar. It's going to be glucose, which the insulin deals with, or it's going to be fructose, which comes from our fruits and our fruit smoothies and our orange juice and stuff, and our high fructose corn syrup. That can only be handled by the liver. But when you think through a child that you've ever given cotton candy to, or after Halloween and they're eating their candy, what happens to their hands? What do their hands feel like after they've eaten the candy? Sticky. Right?
Yes.
So sugar is very sticky to any protein in our body. And so when we consume glucose or fructose, it's going to do this process called glycation, Glycation, glycation. It glycates or sticks to proteins in our body. And that's sticking of the sugar inside of our body, and it happens on our red blood cells, it happens on the linings of our arterial wall, it happens in our joints, it happens in our lumbar area, on our discs. What happens is the body thinks of it as a splinter. I want you to think of it if you've ever had a splinter in your finger and it gets red and inflamed. And it throws the body into inflammation, and we have this inflammatory response. And it activates all sorts of T cells and things that come in, and they think foreign invader. And so it creates an inflammatory environment, which if you've ever burned your finger, you know that it's hot and it's red.
Yes.
So what we want to do is we want to avoid unnecessary inflammation. And we do that through the food we put in our mouth. And so even if you're ketogenic, if there are certain things like you can buy like the low carb tortillas, or you can buy Carb Quick, nothing wrong against them. But if gluten, which is found in all wheat products, is a trigger for your inflammation as well as glucose, stripping out, like you said, you tried to take the dairy out to see if that was causing some of the problems in your throat. We all have to self-experiment. One size does not fit all in pantyhose or in keto. So you have to. So I'm starting on August 1st with Nisha Berry, who I just love her.
I love her.
I have a girl crush on her and a clinical crush on him. But
I know, right?
even though I could be her mom,
I know, it's terrible. I'm like, she's not that much younger than my son. I feel like such an old lady. But Dr. Ken says I'm hella sexy. That means I'm not old. Hashtag not old.
Said that to me, so you win.
I win.
But anyway, so what we want to do is we want to self-experiment. So I'm going to do the carnivore for 2 weeks. I don't know. I wasn't willing to commit a month to see if I can, by stripping basically all carbs out, other than maybe the half a carb that's in each egg and a little bit of cheese, if I can jumpstart my weight loss. Maybe even though my fasting insulin level's great, it's 2.4, and my A1C is wonderful, my body has sort of settled in at this current weight. And in the past 8 months, I'm only down like 5 pounds. So what can I do? I'm the only one that can fix what I put in my mouth. So I'll try the carnivore. I don't think I'll stay with it, but I told my sister, I said, if I start sladding, if the scales start showing success, if my fat cells decide to release, then I may stay with it.
I might. I'm actually really excited. Tonight at 7 p.m., I'm doing a 30-day carnivore recap with Spirit Warrior Wendy that I work with. So when we came back from KetoCon, we kind of carnivored over that weekend. She flourished. It was miserable for me. Like, there just wasn't vegetables there. Everything was meat. And by day 2, I was miserable. I ate me 3 Brussels sprouts, happiest lady on the planet. Like, I was like, wow. But she came home and she thought, you know what, maybe I'll try it for 30 days. So tonight we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about, the challenges, the good parts, the bad parts. Did her scale move? Is she going to stay with it? Is carnivore for everybody? Because it's the new buzzword, Nurse Cindy, and everybody's like, oh, I'm going to carnivore because so-and-so got results. But it might not be for you.
No.
Right?
And I don't even know. My husband told me months ago, he said, sweetheart, he's so proud of me. He said, if you stay exactly the same size and you just continue to reach out and help other people, he said, I'm so proud of you. So if it takes me 5 more years to lose the last 20, I've just finally found success. So I'll see how carnivore goes, but there's nothing wrong with trying it for a couple weeks.
No, nothing wrong with it. And you know what? I've heard lots of people say, break a stall, change your food, go dairy free, try carnivore, try zero carb, try doing something different, do the bacon fast.
Exercise, drink more water, drink less coffee.
Yes. A little of this.
So I'll see. This will be my first major change in my diets, basically since I started keto. So we'll see.
Oh, I love it.
I told all my followers, I said, I'll give it 2 weeks. I'll be good. But they don't want you to use any sweeteners whatsoever.
No.
So far as Swerve or stevia or
none of it.
Black coffee, we'll see. Well, I can put a little bit heavy whipping cream in, but
I'll be thinking of you, Cindy, and we'll be rooting for you. Like every day you post, and we'll be like, "We love you, Cindy. Keep it up. Do it, baby. Do it." Because we're here to support you. You support thousands, tens of thousands, millions of people. So we love the opportunity to support you in something. So Kimberly asked, and this is a great question, because I get this one all of the time. Now, when people start keto and they start hearing about keto, they kind of hear about intermittent fasting and how that's the key and how everybody loses. So Kimberly wants to know, can I start keto with intermittent fasting? Nurse Cindy, can I just be like, hey, I'm keto, I intermittent fast?
Yeah. You sure can if you've got that willpower. I didn't know about intermittent fasting 2 years ago, although we all intermittently fast when we sleep.
Yes.
And there's some nights that I just have that still that emotional response where I'm not hungry at all, but I'm like, man, I just want something to eat. And I'll look at my husband and I'll say, I'm going to bed.
I'm going to bed.
I'm going to go to bed because if I'm asleep, I'm not going to eat. Right. But here's what I found is if it's a big change for you, progress over perfection. If you want to do both at once, great. If you want to get into ketosis and then become fat adapted, give it a month, get the diet under control, get your hunger under control.
Yes.
If I'd known about intermittent fasting 2 years ago, I think I still would have done what I did.
Me too.
I've done a couple of 3-day water and bone broth fasts. I've done, I'll typically, there's days I'll eat 3 meals. There's days I eat 1. I don't make it a rigid part because I'm not a rigid person. I'm not like a type A in the sense of I like to track everything and I want to eat only in this eating window. Other people thrive that way. So I think do what you want. You do keto your way and I'll do it mine. And as long as we understand that the big culprit are the carbohydrates.
Yes.
If you do nothing else but keep your carbohydrate intake under 20 net or 20 total, depending on if you want prescription strength keto or over-the-counter strength keto, and that's a term I stole from Dr. Eric Westman from Duke.
Love it. I might steal that too.
You're going to do well. You're going to do great. Mega and Matt from Keto Connect, which is the largest
I love
keto
them.
website type thing in the world, basically. They eat 3 meals a day.
Yep.
They just don't like it. So the good news is it's your keto. It's your eating plan, and what works for you, you'll find your rhythm. And there's days that I lost my wallet when I was over in London on business. I left it at the gate, at the counter, checking in. My passport and I made it through, but I'd left my wallet on the counter.
Oh, no.
I flew they got it to me right as they shut the gate, so they turned it in the door of the plane. But I had everything that they had to eat on board was, I'm onion allergic, so I couldn't, it's either onions or it was not keto. So I just, a non-planned intermittent fast. And I would have been panicked 2 years ago that I was going to go 12 hours without eating. And I was like, all right. I looked down at my butt and I said, eat big. I just want, it's good. So whatever she wants to do will be fine.
Well, and for me, when people ask me, I usually tell them, you know what, intermittent fasting isn't beginner's keto. First, you want to cut your sugar, your carbs, you want to be fat adapted so you're not hungry all the time, and then give her dirt. Now, for me, I'm going to say I was probably keto for almost a year before I heard the magical term intermittent fasting. And then I did like I always do. I heard a fun word, and I hit the internet to research. And I was kind of disappointed, I won't lie, because when I researched it, I was like, oh, I already do that.
Because I'm only eating when I'm hungry.
Yes, and that was the key for me. I stopped eating all the time, and I started eating only when I was hungry, and then only until satisfied, not stuffed. We all know the difference. satisfied. That feeling when you're like, oh, I just want one more bite because it's yummy. Stop there. Stop right there. And then all of a sudden, I was only eating, and it happened right away. Like, I usually have my first meal between 1 and 3 in the afternoon. So we're almost time that I would eat. Then we have our dinner at 8 p.m., and I have a very small snack around 10. But I was like, okay, so I'm already doing that. I'm already doing it. So if you're eating only when you're hungry, chances are you're probably already intermittent fasting, and you just don't know it.
Yeah, and what I tell people is in the keto teaching community is we can't make this too restrictive or too elitism.
We can't.
We need, and that's what Dr. Westman always talks about. He has people that have lost 100 pounds eating Taco Bell and McDonald's.
Well, because you can.
Quality is not as good as if I can buy, as Ken Berry says, Panda Massage beef.
I love it.
You can make the steps you can. Progress over perfection.
Yes.
The big evil is having a high insulin level, and the only way we can help reduce that is by reducing our carbohydrates. Everything else is tweakable.
Yes. Now, what I would really love to close out on, because I know we've sort of run over in time, and Instagram will kick you out after an hour. It's rude. Is I would like to close on, Nurse Cindy, I'm not losing weight as fast as everybody else. You know, my cousin is losing weight faster, or my lady down the street. My husband, Nurse Cindy, has the nerve to lose more weight than me. It's not fair.
Yep. No, it's not. It's not, but that's the male muscle mass versus the female. Never compare yourself to a guy. Never compare yourself to someone who's decades younger than you, or someone who's not on medications. If you are on medications, someone who only gained weight in the last 4 or 5 years versus me that gained weight. I think I came out of the birth canal.
Overweight, me too.
My early memories were being the heaviest girl in my class, the heaviest student in my class. So your journey is yours. Celebrate your progress. Stir yourself up and say, you can do this. It's my journey. And I will tell you that there's some people, if you're just trusting the people online, they sort of fib. If you've ever checked out their profiles, a lot of them are not actually losing it at the rate that they've said. So I would just say celebrate that you're making good choices for yourself. The scales are big fat liars.
Yes.
We put them into out, and we need to look at how are we feeling, what's our energy, what's our, how are our clothes fitting us, how's the aches and pains, and just know that by removing things that have processed carbs and additives we can't pronounce, our body will respond in due time. It's not fun that if I'd given up a year ago when my weight loss really screeched very slow, I'd have it all back on by now if I said it wasn't working. Don't give up. You're going to win if you don't give up.
And I want to share with you guys as my closing thought, your belly fat is the last thing that's going to go. I'm sorry. Boobs are the first thing to go.
Yep.
Enough with the boobs already. Hashtag, oh my God, are you kidding me right now? And the belly is the last, because people message me all the time and say, how do I lose belly fat fast? I want to lose belly weight. And I want you guys to know that that's the very last thing your body is going to flush is that tummy. But mine is finally starting to come down after a lifetime of the grossest stomach ever. So it'll happen to you too.
It will. You guys just don't give up. Don't give up.
That's right.
You're going to win.
And you know what? Before we leave, tell us where to find you, because we need your inspiration. So we're on Instagram.
Facebook, Ask Nurse Cindy on Instagram. Get my website up. It's called Ask Nurse Cindy. I'm very creative. Ask Nurse Cindy, Ask Nurse Cindy.
I know. I'm Colorful Keto with Dory everywhere, too. It's called branding, baby. We got this down.
Yeah, I'm branded. Dory, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for your time, and I hope we get to do it again. You're amazing. And we're going to post some of your videos on my Facebook feed, and I'll send you all the copies when we're done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have an amazing Monday.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much. Bye, hon.
Bye-bye.
Oh, so most amazing ever. Who loves Nurse Cindy? Just saying. We all do. We all do. So I'm going to sign off here. I'm going to save it. I'm going to load it up to YouTube. And if you go to the Facebook event, I'm going to add some of the Nurse Cindy videos that we talked about, because you guys have to see the whoosh video. That was the first Ask Nurse Cindy video I ever saw, and it blew my mind. So I'm going to post up some stuff for you guys, and we will be back at 6 p.m. Mountain, so just over 3 hours. We're going to hang out with Dr. Ken Berry, and we've got some really good questions for him. If you guys have any questions, post them in the questions for Dr. Ken Berry on my Instagram, and I will most certainly ask him your question. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Have an awesome, awesome Monday, and I can't wait to hang out with you later. Bye, darling.